Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Straight facts with Lee Gunner. Tuesday afternoons wouldn't be the same without this heated, rambunctious affair that we go through each and every single week. Today, we're talking Graham Potter. Has he been sacked? Is he a dead man walking? Mauricio Pochettino reportedly has so far turned down an approach from Chelsea. We'll be delving into that in more detail as well. We're looking at the Qatar takeover, the likes of Mark Goldbridge and co calling out the hypocrisy. We will be focusing on Arsenal's great comeback and big £200,000 a week links to Declan Rice, all to come on the show today. Plus, we're looking at Man United, Rashford and Garnacho close to new deals as well. But I wanted to start with Chelsea, to be honest. We know they've been in poor form, Lee. Terrible form. And no one's really quite understood where the level of support has come towards Graham Potter. As in, no matter how many games he fails to win, how many bad performances, they kind of double down. And then today we see the news that actually they may have approached Mauricio Pochettino. Of course, a lot of Chelsea fans will say fake news because he said no to them. If he had said yes, they'd be saying it was real. Or if Poch was interested, they'd maybe say it was real. But do you think, before we get on to Poch, do you think it's right that Chelsea look to sack him? Or do you think Graham Potter deserves more time to develop his team? Like, what way round? Should they trust the Graham Potter process is what I'm saying, Lee.
Yeah, trust the process, man. It took Klopp 4 years. Do you know what I mean? It took Klopp 4 years, Terry. I don't see what the problem is. They were all mouthing it off all summer when they were spending loads of money, getting Koulibaly, Sterling, Aubameyang, all the other players they were getting in. January, they were splashing more cash, signing Mudryk. Oh, we stole Mudryk. I didn't want him anyway. Yeah, and so far since he's been there, what's he done? Yeah, literally
very little so far.
Do you remember the little thing that Sky Sports put up? The little graphic of Jadon Sancho in a suit, 007. I see one doing the rounds the other day with Mudryk, 007.
Well, it's kind of getting that way, isn't it? Like he's building up enough games that they tried to get Gakpo, and Gakpo scored on the 7th appearance, I think. So they're aiming towards that with him as well. 100%.
Crazy, but the thing is, yeah, they've spent so much money, and then their fans all sitting there writing everything off. And listen, we've sat here. Like, I know you predicted Liverpool to win the league. Yeah, I predicted them to be second or third. I think it was second. I put them. I think City first, them second. But you know, we've still sat here over the course of this season and said they could still potentially get top 4. And if they win their games in hand, they're 1 point off of it. So, you know, why can't Chelsea still be aiming to get in the top 4? Like, their fans have basically written the whole season off with loads of games to go. And, you know, at the end of the day, they can sit and laugh at every other team over the last 20 years because they've been the best team, you know, like trophy-wise. But it's now funny that it's gone full circle. And the funniest thing about the whole situation with Chelsea is Todd Boehly didn't need to go and do all of this. All he had to do is go in there. If he wants to change a couple of staff and personnel upstairs, then do it. You don't need to go out and buy 15 players or whatever it is they've brought. You don't need to do that. All they had to do is go out there, go and get a couple of players, get through the season, and then go again with Potter in the summer with a pre-season, let him get his players. I don't believe he wanted all them players. Yeah, and the contract he's signed, I think he's on 12 million quid a year for 5 years. That's 60 mil. He's going to take all the abuse he gets, mate, for that much payout. If they sack him, he's minted. He don't have to ever work again, does he? So I think it's just been a bit of a mess. Like, I can't lie. I think there's no way you're telling me you wanted both Fafanas, Madueke, Baduashili, Mudryk, like Felix. There's no way he wanted all of these players, Terry. Let's be real with it. Yeah. So who's controlling it? He played Mason Mount up front at the weekend. Like, was that his decision, or is that Todd Boehly sitting upstairs, phoning down to the bench saying, "Right, put Mason up front"? Like, because and the guy who comes on my channel and does fan cams, he watches baseball, and he said this is exactly what he did in baseball. Yeah, went in, started throwing money around, and they've won 1 trophy in 7 years. And it's almost like, well, if you're like, we're never going to be billionaires, Terry, right? But if you're a billionaire, what is the only way you can flex? You go and buy a football team, right? Cool. Well, everyone else is a billionaire pretty much in the Premier League, bar two teams, Brentford and Forest, right? So now how do you flex on other billionaires that are billionaires in the league? You just go and throw, right, Mudryk, yeah, we're having you. Right, we're going to fly a team out to get Enzo Fernandez. Yeah, we're just going to turn up and bully you. Yeah, we're going to turn up at that hotel in Turkey and get Mudryk. And it's almost like he's flexing his wealth and saying like, yeah, I'm the man. Yeah, the problem is all he's doing is just making that club's fan base go nuts, right? And I was surprised. I caught the back end of the Chelsea game at the weekend. I was surprised how many fans were still there at full time because they had a 12-minute stoppage time on. Normally, that would have been an empty stadium. Fans have walked out disgusted, but they all decided to stay and wait for final whistle to boo everything. Right? That fan base is at boiling point right now. He needs to sack him. He's got to go, mate. Like, real talk, all jokes aside, yeah, like with the process and all of it, there ain't no process, Terry. The process is win every game or win trophies. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And the funny thing about it is he's trying to hang on for dear life, Bowley, because it was his man. He sacked Thomas Tuchel, who had won 3 trophies in 15 months or 18 months. So he's brought him in. Yeah. Now it's like, oh, wow, if I sack him, number one, I've got to give him the money. But number two, it's egg in my face. So he's trying to hang on for as long as possible so he saves face. And it's a mess. Their fans are all fighting online. They're all arguing. It's mad. It's crazy, man. This is almost like prime Wenger in, Wenger out days, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It certainly is.
That 6-month period, just like that.
Mate, 100%. And it feels very much like that. And I saw something today here from Matt Law that said Aubameyang being left out of the Champions League squad and not being selected for the last 3 league games was a decision taken in collaboration with the Chelsea board. And straight away, I thought to myself, I've been someone who has gone on record many times. I think that the Bowley group will build something very strong at Chelsea. And I still think they can. But I also have to hold my hands up and admit when something looks bad. And that, for me, reads badly. The board should have no say over who Graham Potter is picking for football matches. Because as soon as they take that power away from him, he loses power in that dressing room anyway. They know that he isn't in control. And if the board say, you're gone, you're gone. If the board say you're playing, you're playing. And that isn't going to help fans trust him because they see Mason Mount being picked when he shouldn't be. And then people think, well, maybe the manager isn't in control. And if he isn't in control in the beginning, normally a manager, win, lose or draw, in their early days has really a lot of control and a lot of power. They get the players they want. They get given support. And it doesn't appear that it's there. And then we see the news article this afternoon. And I know a lot of people saying, Terry, why are you saying that Graham Potter's been sacked? Well, you all know my stance on this. Once the board starts looking for a replacement manager, you're done. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. If your girlfriend, mainly men watching this, but actually we'll rephrase that. If your girlfriend or boyfriend, doesn't really matter which, they're with you, you're not broken up, but they're out there setting up the next person. They've dumped you already. Doesn't matter that you're still officially together. The relationship on Facebook says in a relationship, your name's there. But if they're out there going, right, I got my eye on a new guy. I've got my eye on a new person. I'm going to put a plan in place.
Yeah, I'll be home late tonight, babes. I'm going for drinks with the girls. One of them ones. Yeah?
And some people are smart with this, right? Some people are smart. Some people will always have this label of, I've never cheated. Yeah, but what you did is you set up the next man or you set up the next girl before you ended that relationship. It's essentially the same thing. And that's what Chelsea, I think, are doing right now. And I've been sort of scratching my head the last few days. I'm like, I don't understand why every time they lose, there's almost an instant press release via the Matt Laws of this world of they're fully behind him, they fully back him. I read that as club PR. As soon as I see club PR, I look for the smoke. I found there's a smoke. I've got to go and investigate that fire now because there ain't no smoke without fire. I think Graham Potter is a dead man walking, but they need another manager. What they can't do is just sack him now and have no one to come in and replace him. And Graham Bailey, it's really interesting because in the summer, when Graham Bailey talks transfer news, people believe it. Suddenly, this is news that maybe some Chelsea fans are not happy with. But he stated here, shared by Simon Phillips, that Mauricio Pochettino turns down Chelsea's approach to replace Potter. Chelsea showed interest late last week, and the former Spurs man was targeted, but was not keen. Chelsea won't remove Potter without a plan. I believe that there's an element of truth to this from Graham Bailey, an element of truth to it. Some people have shut it down saying it's nonsense and rubbish. And predominantly that's been pro-Tottenham journalists who want to keep Poch's name clean in case he returns back to Tottenham. And that's what they're going to do here. This is the PR side from everybody. Poch, I think, has probably said no because he's thinking, do I really want to go into that job right now with everything that's going on? Maybe the length of contract wasn't enough. Maybe the salary wasn't. Remember, between 82 to 100 million pound it's going to cost to employ and then sack Graham Potter. They paid 22 million pound compensation to get him and his team. It would cost 52 million instantly to sack him, plus the salaries of all of his backroom staff. You're talking upwards of 82. They estimate between 82 to 100 million pounds to get rid of him. Of course, it's not going to be a decision made knee-jerk overnight. They've got a plan for a replacement, and they have to try and find a manager that's not in a job because they can't afford to spend another 15, 20 million pound on compensation. They as much money as they've got, they can't spend 100+ million pound on 3 managers in one season.
Well, Tuchel is available. Maybe they can sweet talk him back.
Maybe they can. Maybe they can. People saying here that the media are creating stories. Listen, I don't agree.
Well, they are and they're not. But the problem is Chelsea, without all of this happening at Chelsea, there wouldn't be a story to begin with.
Exactly. And for me, the speed of which Chelsea keep defending Graham Potter after every draw or defeat tells me they have a pre-scripted response to, is the manager under pressure? And it's a PR response. If he doesn't start winning soon, he's going to lose his job. I no longer believe, my mind has been changed. I don't believe that Chelsea Football Club will continue to keep him here. I think what they were expecting was improvements to have already started and then to treat the rest of this season, if you like, for an extended real-time pre-season to get this squad ready for an onslaught next year. If they end the season mid-table, barely winning, no confidence, they cannot go into another season with this guy. What, they're going to invest another 200 million, 300 million into him to start the season in the same way and then sack him anyway? For me, there's true.
To be fair, they did that with Tuchel.
Behind the story, in my opinion, 110%.
They did that with Tuchel, though, Terry. How much did they spend in the summer and then sacked him real quick?
Exactly. But the problem that they've got is that the amount of money they've spent, although they've said it's going to continue, I haven't even included Tuchel's severance pay. If you include his severance pay as 100 million pound on managers, they're going to make that mistake again. They're going to spend another 300 million in the summer on Potter, sack him, which is going to cost 50, 60 million, and then have to bring a new manager in, and by the start of next season, who knows if the Poches, the Zidanes, the Enriques, they may not even be available anymore. And there are better managers than Graham Potter available right now. I think they've got a strike. And listen, I think because it's Poch, a lot of Chelsea fans will err on the side of caution and say, I think this is a BS story. I think it's made up. I don't think there's no truth behind it. If it was Zidane who they'd approached, I think they'd be getting behind it again. Yeah, we've got to push for this. I don't think Chelsea fans want Poch. And by the way, there's question marks over that guy. Legitimately, there's question marks over Poch. I don't know. I don't think he's as great as Spurs fans believe him to be. I don't think he's a proven winner.
He didn't win anything. He then went to PSG, won stuff, and got sacked immediately. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I totally agree. This year says Potter wants out. He's just waiting for the bag. Carl, you could be.
Did you see the clip Chelsea put on their Instagram of the players coming out the tunnel at the weekend? Have you seen it?
No.
You've not seen it?
No.
Mate, they're all standing there as they're coming out the tunnel, and it was literally like they just grabbed 11 people off the street and put them all together. There was no vibe at all, like no energy, nothing. They were just all like their faces were all bleak and glum as they're walking up the steps to go on the pitch. I was like, wow, that club's dusted right now. Literally, the only way Chelsea fans get change is by all boycott the stadium on the next home game. Yeah, because it's all well and good staying until the end and booing, but you've still gone. Yeah, and like the only way you get a manager out is by voting with your feet. Yeah, we did it with Wenger. There was hardly anyone in the stadium. Yeah, I think 20,000 when we played Man City, 25,000. Yeah, and then when we went 2-0 down after 20 minutes, half of them walked out. So the stadium was literally 1/5 full. Yeah, about a week later, he was announcing he's leaving. It's enough's enough. When the fans vote with their feet, mate, it is what it is. It's being all around the world, Terry. This is the biggest league in the world, like for viewership. So, if Chelsea fans want him out, it's all well and good sitting there saying it online. Yeah, but the ones that turn up to the games, Yeah, just don't turn up.
Yeah,
We see Valencia the other night outside their ground. 30,000 were outside their stadium while the game was being played to get the owner out, and they'll do that continuously until he's gone. So now that's being beamed all round. There's no Valencia fans in their ground because all outside protesting.
No,
and as them stories start booming up, eventually the club have to pull ties, man.
And I get that. And listen, I was someone that up until the weekend, I was like, no, they've got to give him time. And I was kind of saying it. I believed it, but it was like, no, there'll be. I've seen signs. I've seen moments. The game at home against Southampton, I just had, for me, it was like an epiphany moment where I just thought to myself that the Chelsea fans that were calling for him to go, I just saw what they have been saying. It just kind of clicked into place for me. I understood it. My mind changed. And I'm now even looking at the ownership and saying, okay, guys, you've done some really good stuff. You've been innovative. You bought lots of players. But have you made a mistake getting rid of Tuchel? Have you made a mistake bringing in a manager that, look, a lot of people wanted to see Potter be given an opportunity, but the man looks like he's drowning. If you go back to his first few days, the fact that he came in and he changed his image, changed his haircut, shaped up his beard, it was almost like you weren't even being yourself, which means you feel inadequate. He felt inadequate. Now, if you go from working on a construction site to working in a plush office, of course you're going to change your appearance. You're not going to turn up with your with your steel toe cap boots and your clothes covered in paint and dust. You're going to change how you look. But when you're in the same industry and you move, when you suddenly change overnight your image, how you look, that tells me you feel inadequate. That tells me you're putting on a show. Oh, I've got to look a certain way because I don't feel comfortable in my own skin. You're being there's a bit of a facade there. And he put on a facade so that he could feel more like a Chelsea manager. And putting on a nice suit and getting a fade isn't going to make people respect you more. What they would have respected is Graham Potter coming in and being Graham Potter. So I think from day one, he got his decision-making wrong. The fans aren't behind him. The players are clearly not playing for him. And I'm reading all the reports of, the fans have got a deep love and respect for him, and they really love how he does things. That kind of story was written about Ollie every single week. Every single week I saw them stories. And there's something about the PR coming out of Chelsea that just smells off to me. And listen, is Poch the right guy? He'll play better football. He'll make them a better football team.
Will he though? Will he though? Because maybe the reason he's potentially rejected this at the moment, from what we're seeing, is maybe he's not in charge of picking the players he wants, picking the team he wants. Like, look at some of the decisions Potter's been making, mate. Are you telling me they're all his decisions? No way. No way, man. That Bowley's playing Football Manager, mate, from up in the executive box.
Well, maybe that's the issue. Maybe we've all had the wool pulled over our eyes, or not everybody, because some people have been calling this out. But maybe you're right that the managers just don't get the control. That's why him and Tuchel fell out. Maybe Poch has looked at it and said, look, I've heard too many bad things. I'm going to be treated how Daniel Levy treated me in the last couple of years, and I don't want that. If Poch goes in my opinion, they'll play better football and they'll improve. But will Poch be enough to make them win Premier League titles, Champions Leagues, which is the standard Chelsea have to aim for, especially with the money they've spent? No, Poch isn't the right person. But who else do they go for?
Who would you pick? They need a Jose Simeone, someone like that, just to go in there. Instant respect. Instant, like, you're going to do as I tell you, and if not, I'm leaving.
With the money, look, listen, I don't even know. Jose Mourinho returning for a third time. I think Jose's past his best, so I would say.
No, I mean that type of manager.
No. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Simeone could. I think a manager. You've got to go for managers with the clout of a Luis Enrique, of a Zinedine Zidane, someone that's going to go in there and every single player is going to listen to them. Hansi Flick could be an example of a manager that could go in there who the football world knows and would respect from day one. And he'd probably sit in there, and those managers have so much credibility. They're bigger than every player. The problem is with a Graham Potter is there's players in there that have achieved things that he hasn't even smelt. The first game he managed at Chelsea in the Champions League was the first time Graham Potter had even been to a Champions League game, even as a fan, let alone a manager. There is something about that. It feels very Moyesy, if that makes sense. But there are managers out there. Listen, there's talk about PSG going back for Tuchel. Maybe, just maybe, Chelsea should get ahead of the game and say, we're really sorry. Brandon here, thanks for the super chat, bro. It says, Chelsea are dusted. It doesn't matter what manager they bring in if the manager isn't even in control of what happens on the pitch. And I think, Brandon, to your point, this here from Matt Law, this should scare the living daylights out of Chelsea fans. That the board are making collaborative decisions with the manager about who should start games, who should be in the Champions League squad. The manager should be able. If the manager says he isn't good enough, then the board have got to say yes, sir. If the manager says he is good enough and he's staying, the board have got to say yes, sir. And interestingly, at Man United this year, I know they're selling, but one of the things that's been brilliant that the board have allowed is our manager to have control. I want rid of Ronaldo. Yes. I'm dropping the world record signing and captain Maguire. Yes. We are not giving Rashford a new deal until he gets himself back in form. Yes. These decisions have been imperative in our improvements. Chelsea are literally doing things which the Glazers were doing and failed for a decade. The fact that Chelsea fans need to pick up on this soon and fight back against it quickly. Otherwise, road to ruin could be on the cards. There's no doubt. Wolves here says Conte has been a manager since like 2006. First Italian minnows. Since then, a lot of glory as well. Is he a dinosaur? He obviously evolves and changes like Sir Alex Ferguson for 35 years. Listen, maybe Jose could come. I think you're talking about Jose. Maybe he could come back and do it. Sean Dyche will leave Everton for Chelsea. Can you imagine?
Hey, Big Sam's available, mate. Maybe go and get Big Sam. Ian Dowie, maybe plug Ian Dowie out of nowhere. Like, is he still on
Dowie, Pardew's around. It could be anybody.
Yeah. I think give it to Harry Redknapp. Do you know what I mean?
I think Diego Simeone. He wouldn't. Thing with Chelsea fans is, and I'm Chelsea fans viewing. You may want to disagree with me, but I don't think Chelsea fans care about pretty football. I don't think Chelsea fans, they don't have a history of bit like Arsenal for 25 years, like Man United for 100 years, like Barca or Ajax. They don't have a history of being the most beautiful to watch football team. So I don't think Chelsea fans would care about Simeone ball. Chelsea fans are bred to do one thing nowadays. It's win. Win in any style, in any manner, in any way, as long as you're winning. So I think Simeone could be a great shout, but how expensive would he be to get out his contract? I don't know.
He's leaving at the end of the season.
Oh, is he? Oh, yes, he is. He is. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's it then. Maybe just.
And that was probably down to the Felix deal as well. Yeah, because I don't think he wanted Felix to leave.
Well, Felix.
And then the board let him leave. And then a day or two after Felix signed for Chelsea, he announced he's leaving. And then I think a day or two after that, Felix then signed a new contract with Atleti. So there's something gone on up in board level there as well, man.
Something ain't right. But look, we'll see what happens. Chelsea fans, let us know what you think. Let us know what you feel. Make sure you're all hitting the like button, by the way. 2,000 people watching live, which is amazing. Smash the like button for us right about now. They won't sign Simeone because they want to sign João Felix. Well, yeah, there is. What I read was the opposite to you, Lee. What I heard is that there's a problem between Felix and Simeone. So yeah, but equally, like let's see what happens. I think he could do a good job. I think Diego Simeone has just gone stale where he is. Speaking of going stale and having bad opinions, there's a lot of outrage online still this week about Manchester United's Qatari takeover. And there's a comment here from Mark Goldbridge, actually, where he says the media deep dive and scrutiny into the Qatar compared to Sir Jim reminds me of the pro Poch campaign that ran over Ten Hag a year ago. Equal scrutiny will get you far more respect. And I'm not sitting here and agreeing with the idea of sports washing. I'm not sitting here and agreeing with every rule and law that exists in Qatar or in other countries. I'm not sitting here and saying that billionaires are the most perfect, morally balanced, integral people in the world. What I'm calling out is the hypocrisy. You must have seen it, the kind of the bellyache and the crying and the moaning.
I've seen it all. Yeah, but the funny thing is, the person who wrote that tweet, mate, was Ollie's lawyer for 3 years. So it's kind of well, it was true, innit? Let's be real. And then only jumped on the Ollie out when it was fashionable. But yeah, I've seen it. Miguel Delaney's in tears, crying. There's other journalists out there crying. Yeah, and it's like half of these journalists work for a Saudi/Russian outlet, but they're now trying to justify it. Mate, it makes no sense. All of these journalists were out in Qatar, like working in Qatar for the World Cup. Like, they're all hypocrites, man. Like, at the end of the day, I don't understand what it has to do with anything where they're from. And the fact is, the aim of sport is to win. And you've got a better chance to win with Qatari owners than you have with the Glazers, right? So that's it. Yeah, and anything else is irrelevant. Everything else about human rights and all of this It's irrelevant. Man United, it actually says it on your badge. Manchester United Football Club. That's it. It's a football club, bro. That's it. Doesn't matter about all of this. If you go through every single ownership of every single football team in the world, yeah, there's a lot of skeletons in closets, mate. Yeah, but because it's Man United and they work solely on the Glazers' behalf, yeah, indirectly, right? They're just putting out all this crap. They want this Jim Radcliffe guy. Yeah, well, he's doing well against Qatari owners over in France. I think they're 10th, aren't they? Nice.
Well,
Well, it's already proved that Jim Radcliffe can't compete in France. How's he going to compete in England?
Even if you forget that from it, because I get your point. Let's look at it from and I said it earlier. Let's review their ability to run a club and their, and what their bids are saying for a moment. But even if you look at that, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's business invested $2 billion into building plants and factories in Saudi, which make his company billions. So the company that want to buy Man United make billions out of the Middle East. So is that not tarnished? And me and KJ were talking about this earlier, and it's almost like, how far do you take this connection? So if we look at this as an example, Qatar they put £1.6 billion into Barclays. They put in 733 million into Sainsbury's. They own 20% of Heathrow. They put £4.4 billion into Heathrow. They own 7% of the entire London Stock Exchange.
Whew.
They own a huge water company. They own like £300 million as a water company. They built the whole damn Shard. They bought the whole of Harrods, and they own Canary Wharf which is one of the main financial hubs in the UK. So how far do people want to take this? And that's all I'm asking for here. If you're someone that says, if you're a Man United fan, you go, right, I don't want people from Qatar based on these 5 reasons, whatever they are. I don't agree with the laws in their country, how they treat women, their views on homosexuality. Because of that, these people cannot own our club. I will respect your human right to have that opinion. But if they buy Man United and you go out and buy shirts, you go and watch the games, you continue watching on TV, you continue to support the club, what does that say about your moral fiber? What it says is that watching Man United is more important than those human rights issues that you've taken issue with online. And that's what I don't agree with. And, I'm just somebody that looks at life through this lens of, am I prepared to boycott? Now, there are certain things you can't help, okay? I don't like the Tories, but I can't stop paying tax. Otherwise, I'll go to prison. It won't happen. There are certain things in life you just have to do, okay? But watching football is not a necessity. However, I think some people care more about their football clubs than they do human rights violations. In reality, they just don't want to admit it. So they virtue signal and they bullshit. And it's so funny watching it and then everybody being exposed, because you could delve into any company. Let's just take it away from the Middle East. I want Amazon to buy it. I want Bezos to buy it. Okay. So there's lots of issues there with employee rights. What about the fact that Amazon, or you could throw Apple into this as an example, they make billions and billions of pounds a year from people in countries that you find reprehensible that also buy their products. When I was in Qatar, I had to use Amazon twice to order some computer equipment for my camera, like some leads. Amazon's available over there. So are they tarnished now because some of the money that ends up in the bank accounts of Amazon that could buy Man United have come from the nations and the countries that you say are reprehensible? Like, how far and how deep do we take this? There are companies like McDonald's that pretty much sponsor every major sporting event in the world. There's McDonald's in all these countries. Does that mean they're now tarnished? It means because they sponsor it. In fact, Barclays had a huge investment, not just from Qatar, but Barclays was kept in business when I worked there by Middle East money from Abu Dhabi. It kept Barclays from being nationalized, kept them in business. Barclays were the sponsors of the Premier League at the time. So does that mean we've got to boycott the entire league? This is why it annoys me. If you keep digging and you keep going far enough,
Terry, you can go even further than that, yeah, because a subsidiary,
and nobody will.
Company.
And nobody will. Nobody will. If you keep digging deep enough, everybody's a hypocrite. Stop with the pretend virtue, and just, if you're going to participate in the evil fruits of their labor, and you're going to enjoy football, or you're going to go out for a nice meal at the Shard, or you're going to use Heathrow Airport, or whatever it may be, shut up. It's embarrassing now. But this has all happened though, right? because the world has become addicted to pretending to be virtuous. Pseudo-moralistic stances online are so fashionable. Everybody wants to look like a great person. But the problem is, it ends up coming full circle and biting you in the ass. When Newcastle got taken over, virtue signalers everywhere because they were jealous their club didn't have it. And I remember sitting there in the space online. I said, I ain't going to do that. I want to, because I want to find a way of discrediting it because I'm jealous. But I'm not going to do it because we never know who Man United's next owners are going to be. And it is what it is. It is what it is. People will preach on and on about caring about human rights until it comes to their football team being owned by someone that's got an accusation against them, or a business they work for having an accusation against them. And suddenly their moral compass seems to evaporate into thin air. It's embarrassing now. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, but it doesn't help when the football team, that you support, and the Premier League who run the football in this country, in the higher league anyway, are doing exactly the same, Terry. They're doing exactly the same. Yeah, so when you see that, if like my club especially, with the Love is Love banners and all of that, at the weekends, and then we've got the gay gooners on the Twitter page. Then it's articles from them and why they supported the club, etc., etc. When the club are doing stuff like that, listen, everyone can watch football. I don't care what anyone does after dark. It's got nothing to do with football. The same as no football fan should care who the owner is. Like, real talk. Well, as long as you're successful on a football pitch, that is what your football club, my football club, and every football club has ever been set up, Terry, has been set up to go and compete for titles and trophies.
I get
for the working class man back in the day. Over years and years and years, all this virtue signaling has entered the game. The clubs have took it on board. Yeah. Arsenal Football Club were banning people in the comments the other day on one of them posts. They were blocking everyone in the comments. Well, some of the people in the comments, it's against their religion, what they were posting, like the faith and all of that, of what was going out on them Twitter pages. And they were saying we want to be as diverse as possible, but then blocking people who in their own religion don't adhere to that. So you don't want to be diverse then. So on one hand you are, but then on the other hand, you're signaling out a load of people that don't believe in that.
This is the thing.
Where does it end?
The way I would look at it is this. Do I believe having owners that are from Islamic countries, do I think they're going to stop Man United participating LGBTQ plus initiatives? No. Do I believe they're going to get rid of the women's team? Do I think that women will be made to feel less safe at Manchester United? Do I feel that that we're not employing any women? Do I think the club is going to regress from a Westerner's perspective? Regress? No. I just don't see that happening. So as much as the money might be coming from somewhere that people are uncomfortable with, do you think Man United are going to go, right, we're not, if there's a weekend where there's rainbow laces, do you think Man United are going to refuse to take part because our owners are from Qatar? I absolutely guarantee you that doesn't happen. It absolutely does. It won't. And that's the bit for me that I find really interesting. This guy here says terrible examples. Well, do you know what, my friend Ashers? You don't like the examples I gave. Tell me what I'd love for you either to come on air now or write in the comment section what is wrong with what it is that I'm saying. I'm actually saying, this is the crazy bit. People are missing my point completely. I don't care if you think these things. If you think it's morally reprehensible, I respect your right to say that. If you're someone that's going to walk away and not be a Man United fan anymore or quit watching football because of the type of owners that are coming in, I respect that. But don't moan about it and then participate in it, because participating in football is a choice. It isn't a life necessity. It is not a necessity, and you're choosing to. The same as if you find out how batteries for iPhones are mined and the slavery that goes into it, and you're not willing to give up your phone, then you care more about having an iPhone than you do those atrocious behaviors. That is the long and the short of it. The problem is with people nowadays is they always want to wash their hands. With freedom comes responsibility. And with the freedom of choice that we have in the worlds that we live in, responsibility comes with it. And if your freedom of choice means that you're using products that are made cheaply through ill-gotten gains, that's still on you. You know, if you're someone that watches Apple, buys Apple, but you know that things are made, the phones are made in sweatshops, that's on you. But you just don't like being called out on it because it makes you feel bad. You know, stop.
Terry,
what I was going to say, I want to finish the last point. Nobody would be calling you out if you weren't pretending to be more virtuous than the next person. People are annoyed at you because you're pretending to care when you don't. That's the issue.
Yeah,
Point
mate,
blank to me.
100% spot on. Terry, these people couldn't care less if the Qataris buy Man United. Yeah, but it gets some traction online. Do you genuinely think all these Man United fans, like I see today, I think it was the Norwegian Supporters Trust for Man United, yeah, which is the biggest outside of the UK for Man United. 84%, I think it was, voted, yeah, for Jim Radcliffe. Okay, so on that basis alone, then, when the Qataris buy it and Jim Radcliffe don't, yeah, what are you all packing up shop then? You're not going to get your little perks and get into a little AGM meeting every year. Yeah, mate, these people chat the biggest crap on the internet, mate. Yeah, and they couldn't care less. It's just, oh, look at us. We just want to keep our tea and biscuits and blah, blah. These people are idiots, Terry. And we've seen it for years and years and years. Yeah, calling people out for this, calling people out for that. How about shut up and get on with your own life? Yeah, because every single item of clothing you wear, yeah, has probably been made in a country where somebody's on 20p an hour. Every single pair of trainers you've put on your feet is exactly the same. Every phone, every device, every TV in your house, yeah. How do you know that the house that was built weren't done under slave labor? How do you know that? Because if your house is 100 years old, how do you know? What, you gone back all the way through it and checked?
Like, how
Where
far
does
do
it
you?
end, Terry? These
I
people just
I had
love
a
to
friend.
chat
I
crap
had a
on the
friend.
internet to look important and look like, oh,
I
I'm
had
a
a
nice person.
I had a friend who wouldn't go on holiday to certain countries. I was like, oh, why? And he kind of said because of this and because of the other. But like, how far do you go with that? Because I mean, do you not go to Italy because of what the Romans did? Would you not go to Scandinavia because of the Vikings? You know, how far back do you take it, and where do you kind of draw the line in the sand? And I think that's the. I used to be like that when I was younger because at school you're kind of taught to be like that. And the older I got, I just realized if you actually live by those moral standards, you'd never do anything. You couldn't eat anything. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't have a
Yeah,
job.
but Terry, like I
It's
said
just
a minute
crazy.
ago, it doesn't help when the football clubs are masquerading as virtual signaling. I was going to say another word after that, but I won't. I'll save the swearing. Yeah,
No,
because
I get where I get
like
where
when
I get where you're coming from.
when all this World Cup thing started, yeah, and Harry Kane and Alex Scott and all these and BBC and all of that, like it all comes from there. Yeah, we come back. Has Harry Kane been to an LGBTQ nightclub since he's been back? Has he been on a march since he's come back? Has he done anything to help that community at all? Probably not. So again, chatting smack. Yeah, but now, oh, Harry Kane, what a lovely fella. Like, mate, you're not here to be a politician. You're not here to virtue signal. You're here to kick ball. You're paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week to kick a football. Yeah, but when the clubs are then doing it as well, right? And I'll give an example. Yeah, you have children. Yeah, the government do not bring up your children. Neither do anyone else. Yeah, you and the other parent of them children bring up your child or children. Yeah. So if you're sitting there and you're taking your kid to a match day, right, and you see banners all around the ground, yeah, of certain different things, subconsciously now in that child's head, they're going to ask you random questions that you're now going to feel awkward with explaining or just dismiss. And that is why it shouldn't be allowed full stop in football for anything, Terry, in my opinion. Because I'll tell you why. It's a game of football, mate.
Mate, no, I understand. And look, for me, I think it's fine to freedom of expression because I'm still going to teach my kids what I consider to be right and wrong, and they're going to trust me enough to believe me. But it's the hypocrisy side of it which I don't like. And there's a super chat that came in here before we move slightly on. That says, Terry, why are you guys twisting this? This is, do you want stay-at-home business or not? See, that isn't
Give
what
me
I'm
a Qatari any day of the week, mate. All day.
Sorry, let me just answer this. That isn't what I'm moaning about, though, is it? See, what you're now doing is literally twisting it. If somebody wants to be state-owned or not, it's fine. It's don't say you hate it, it's the worst thing ever, and it's evil, but then back it when they come in. That is what I'm asking for people not to do. My point of view is this. Idealistically, I don't want any owner that comes with a tarnished reputation, a bad background, bad business practice, or from money that isn't gotten through ill-gotten gains, or there isn't a morally poor element connected to it. But that doesn't exist. The question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to walk away from Man United if they come in? The answer is no. Therefore, there'll be elements of the way Qatar operates in the country that I'll disagree with. The same as elements of the UK I disagree with. But am I prepared to walk away from Man United in disgust? No. Therefore, I'm not going to moan about it. The same as I'm not prepared to cancel Amazon Prime. It does me great. When I read stories about how delivery drivers are treated, I'm like, oh, that's bad. but I don't care enough to cancel it like every other normal person. So I don't therefore moan about it. What I'm saying is don't moan about how bad Amazon is while using it. That's crazy. That's my point. Not that you can't be against it. So please do not twist my words, my friend.
Can I read this comment out very quickly, Terry? Right, there's a comment here from O'Bria. Lee, what the F? How dare you? Football is for everyone. Children asking questions is the whole point. No, it's not, mate. You're taking your kid to a football match to enjoy football, not to be asked a load of questions that you feel maybe the child shouldn't be even asking in the first place, which is why people like Ivan Toney and Wilfried Zaha who refuse to take the knee, I salute them, because now it's just turned into, oh, yeah, well, they're taking the knee. Well, that wasn't what it was there for. Take all of these things away from football. I'm not saying these people can't be involved in football. I'm not saying that. I couldn't care less what anyone does at nighttime with whoever they want. I just don't want it plastered all over the TV screen when I'm trying to enjoy a game of football. Is what I'm saying.
I do understand that. And for me, that's why I love about the UFC, because the UFC is Dana White. Listen, a lot of people don't like Dana White, and there's some reasons not to. But what he said once was so perfect about the UFC. He said the UFC will never take a political stance on anything. But if our fighters in a press conference want to speak political, they've got freedom of speech to do that. And that's what I like about it. It's a fighter can come out and be pro-Democrat, pro-life, pro-choice, pro this, pro that, pro the other, anti this, anti that. The UFC don't stop them. But the UFC, the business, is apolitical. And when I first joined Barclays Bank, I felt it. That's when my mind's like, when I first joined, they were an apolitical organization that would never sway in either direction. And I used to love it because it just felt like an environment where when you went to work, and most branches I worked in had a rule, like when you got in, if anybody started talking politics or talking this, it was like, we're going to shut that out. It was basically like a banned subject because it was so emotive. And it wasn't that, it was just like, you're not here to talk about that. You're here to serve people and help them with their banking. Like, you want to talk about that, go to the pub after work and speak about it. But in these four walls, it was like an apolitical environment. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The world has changed so much since then, though. However, moving on from that, there were talk about Rashford and Garnacho getting new deals at Man United. Thoughts on Rashford picking up a potential £300,000 a week deal, £250,000 to £300,000 a week Rashford deal at Man United?
Well, at the moment, this season, you'd have to say he's in pole position to get it as well. He can demand what he wants, can't he? Like, I think only Messi scored more goals than him for club and country this season, and I think he's only one ahead of him. Yeah, and I think in terms of goals or games actually scored in, yeah, I think he's third on that list as well. Maybe he's even first on that list actually in actual games he's scored in. Mate, he's been brilliant. Let's be real. Yeah, he's been unbelievable this season, but it just goes to show that when a player's got a bit of confidence and he's got a manager that believes in him and a manager that he believes in too, and a system that fits him, all of a sudden you can start looking like you're going to hit the potential that everyone thought you had 6 years ago. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, we sat on here last season and you said, would you take Marcus Rashford at Arsenal? I sat there and went, Rashford, don't want him. Yeah, the form he's in now, I don't think any club wouldn't want him. That's true though, isn't it? No, Terry, you can sit there with that smug grin all you like.
I'm going to back you though on this. I'm going to back you though on this though, because if you actually look at Rashford in this season, he's now doing all the things people were asking of him as well. So he's scoring tap-ins and headers. Yep. He's doing that thing that can he create his own goals? Yes. The guy in the last 2 months has 4 times now has dribbled past at least 3 people into a box and scored. He scored screamers. He scored everything. I just don't. The other one thing he hasn't scored for United since the return has been a free kick, I don't think. But he scored one for England at the World Cup. He's sensational, and I think that commercially and football wise, he'll deserve this 300k a week deal. I think what's nice about it is that it's going to be 250 base, 300,000. It will rise to with kind of win bonuses, and then there's bonuses for sort of seasonal achievements as well. I'm kind of glad United are looking at these deals more now. We're not going to give you 100,000 straight pay rise. It'll be 50,000 pay rise, and then the rest of it is going to be performance related add-ons. I think that's a sensible way to go. But he does deserve it because, again, on form, there is no one in the world better than him. 16 goals since the return of football.
And it just goes to show that, like, last season, I think was the worst season he's had. But I think he had to have surgery on his back or something, didn't he? I think he was carrying an injury for most of it.
He had surgery. So he actually had a pretty good season the year before that. But towards the back end of that season, so 2 years ago, he started slowing down and waning, and it was reported he had loose bone in his ankle. He had a terrible shoulder injury, which has affected his back as well. So he had two really poor injuries that he was carrying. And then in the summer, he had the operation. So he didn't get back playing until like October. By the time he came back, Man United were obviously in an awful state. And he had a terrible season. I don't think anybody would kind of deny that. I think you'd be a fool to turn around and try and pretend like he had a good one last year. It was awful. But if you look at Rashford's career, and I want to read these out to you. So in his first season, it was only like half a season. He had 10 GA. The following season, 18. The year after that, 17, 18, he 22. 18, 19, 23. 19, 20, 34. 20, 21, 30, 36. Then he hit the 7 last year, which was an awful season. This year he's on 32. If you actually look like linear growth, every year this guy's got better. So I hear people now saying, "Oh, what he's doing isn't sustainable."
Rubbish.
That means you're ignoring his career. You're ignoring his whole career and focusing on one season.
Anyone who's saying it's not sustainable obviously hasn't got a clue what they're talking about, Terry. Yeah, like honestly, real talk. Right? I didn't rate him last season. I said I don't want him anywhere near Arsenal. Yeah, I thought that was it. He was doing all this writing books. I think he's written about 4 books. He was going to meet the Prime Minister and all of this and like, you know, feeding kids and all of that. And it was like, mate, you're doing everything but doing well at football. Yeah, he obviously then comes out this season, got a new manager working with him. He feels confident. He's the main man at Man United. Name another player at Man United, yeah, that is the main guy. Yes, you can name Casemiro, but he ain't the main guy, if that makes sense. He's a very important guy, but Rashford's going to be the guy that's going to be looked upon for the next 5, 6, 7 years to be that guy, the Ronaldo-esque figure. He's never going to score the goals Ronaldo scored. Of course he ain't, but you haven't got that in any other player up front or on the wing. You ain't got it. Yeah, nobody can score the amount of goals in that team based off of the figures you've just read out that Rashford can. And that's not trying to like make out he's amazing, because I don't think he is amazing, but he's having an amazing season. Yeah, and it is sustainable because he's scored in how many games? Not like Eddie Nketiah, for example, who scored in 3 out of 21 appearances. He scored in 3 separate games. That's it. Marcus Rashford scored in well over double digits games this season. So it is sustainable. And this is the first season of Ten Hag. So if you go and get a couple more better players as well, you could rotate him a little bit more next season rather than playing him week in, week out. I know he's undroppable at the minute, but when he goes for a little blip or a slump, you can take him out the limelight. Whereas right now, I don't think you can. Yeah, so it is sustainable. He could go and do that again next season. Could maybe even get better next season.
Rashford, is Rashford going to score? It's funny because he nearly broke the Old Trafford record of scoring in 11 games on the bounce at Old Trafford, and then he didn't score in one. He equaled a nearly 100-year-old record, and now he's back to scoring on 7 on the bounce again. The fact that he's at a point where he actually could end up breaking the record, but straight after just missing out on it shows how good his goal scoring form is. Do I expect him to keep scoring at this rate? No, we haven't had a player in this kind of form since Van Persie who did it in 2013.
Yeah, let's not talk about him.
Yeah, Rashford had 2 seasons where he did it at United. You had Ronaldo that did this in kind of between 07 and 09. He was on this kind of level. And even if you go back to our strikers of Solskjaer's and Coles and Yorks and Sheringham's, none of them are really scoring this regularly. It was kind of they would all score like between 15 and 25 goals each, but it was kind of spread out over the season. Rashford's doing something that very few players at our club have done, and I think he can continue doing this because he's got that bit between his teeth, and that's where
he's a more polished version of Vardy.
Yeah, he's a better version.
He's not a very good dribbler. Yeah, he's not very great technically. Yeah, but his best attributes are
I disagree with it. When you say technical, do you mean with skills?
No, technical as in like,
because I think he's very clean. Because I think he's very clean when he strikes the ball. I don't think he's an untidy.
No. I wasn't taking anything away from that. I mean, technically, he's not gonna. His first touch is decent. Yeah, but it's not like wow, what a first touch type of thing. That's what I mean by technical. Whereas when, like, for example, I don't know, Bernardo Silva's first touch or Mahrez's first touch, you're like, wow,
yeah. His first
he's
touch
not that level technically, but he's one of the best ball strikers in the league. Left and right foot.
That's the thing with the word technical. When I think of technical ability, I always think it's about how you hit a ball, your balance, how your contact with the ball is. Touch, I think I look at touch as a different attribute, but I suppose you could put all those things under technicality. So I get that. I just think he's a top class footballer who's performing at a world class level. Who I've always felt he could become a world class player, and people forget the one key issue that he had. I've named all those seasons where he was progressively getting better, but that was under LVG, then under Jose, then under Oli, then under Ragnick. Now this manager. This kid's 30. He's a kid to me because he's 25 and I'm 37. But this man has had 5 managers in his career since the age of 18 who have all played 5 different styles, 5 different watch Rashford. If we could get him a manager in with new owners, especially that would keep this boat moving in the right direction and get some continuity to 4 or 5 years, this guy has the ability to break Wayne Rooney's record at Man United. He has the ability to break that goal scoring record. He's already in the top 13, 14 goal scorers of all time. He's closing in on the top 10. He might not quite make the top 10 this season, but by the end of next year at 26 years of age, he could be in the top 10 highest goal scorers in Man United's club history, at the age of 26. And pending career-ending injuries, he ain't going to leave Man United. He isn't going to. I don't think he's going to do what Wayne Rooney did. Personally, I don't think he's going to do that.
If he stays and signs, I think he'll sign again after that.
Yeah, because he is born and bred. This guy could go on to break Wayne Rooney's record. Now, that doesn't necessarily make him a legend, because at my football club, you need to win Premier Leagues and you need to win Champions Leagues to start moving towards that legend category, because our greatest legends all have those trophies. They all have a league or two, a Champions League, and some. And I think that he needs to add them. But with a player scoring like Rashford, there is absolutely no reason why this Man United won't go to that next level and win major titles again now, especially with new owners.
With the Qatari ownership and with the manager you've got. The manager's really shown this season what a good manager he is.
But Rashford, of course he has. And Rashford's able to perform like this because the club has now got a base behind it, in the sense of De Gea, we've got to improve a goalkeeper with his feet, but David De Gea still stops shots going in. He was amazing on Sunday. You then look at the fact that you've got Varane, and you've got Varane and Lissandro and Shaw at the back, who have been sensational. You've got a midfielder, Casemiro. For the next 2 or 3 years, that guy is going to be brilliant for us. There's no doubt about it. There's a core. Bruno has just had a phenomenal season. He's a great leader, and I've been so impressed with him. I knew he would improve under this manager as well. Rashford isn't just a single player having a great season when the rest of the team is crap. This is a player who's playing brilliantly in a very good system that's still got room to improve, with lots of other quality players around him. And there's no sign that this is just a flash in the pan and Rashford won't come back next season with another 35 to 45 goal contributions in all competitions again. And I also love the fact that he's doing it in all competitions. I love it. I love the fact that it isn't just league goals, but he goes quiet in cup games, because we're in a final this Sunday against Newcastle. We've got a great chance of knocking Barcelona, who have been fantastic in the Liga this year, out of the Europa League. Basically meaning after that, you've got Arsenal in there that I'm worried about. The rest of the teams, we're better than. And who knows, Arsenal and United later stages, what a game that could be.
Well, we can get ourselves in the draw.
And we're on, we could, and we're on the outside. We're on the outside, and we're not in the title race yet, but we're what I call in the title push. We're just behind it, and
you are in the title race. Stop blagging it. You Man United fans are hilarious. Stop blagging it. You're in the title race.
I'm not blagging it.
You're in the title race.
How?
If you were 5 points off fourth, you'd think you're in a top 4 race. So what's the difference?
Because in the top 4 race, you're in the top 4 race by definition because you're slightly inconsistent. If you weren't slightly inconsistent, you'd be in the title race.
No, but you're in the title race because you're very consistent, the same as the two at the top.
So, yeah. So again, you can say that, and I'm fine with you saying it. So you think Man United are as good as Arsenal and City now? You think we are?
I think that all 3 of us this season have shown signs that we're all very, very good teams. Yeah. And the fact that you're even 5 points behind us after the first couple of losses, where you're getting champions 4-0.
I just want to get your opinion. So
you were getting battered 4-0 by Brighton.
I know that. So let me ask you a question. I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm trying to get your opinion. So do you think Man United could win the league?
Of course they can. Why can't they? We can win it. Man
City can win it. You can win it.
We're the only 3 teams that can win it. Like my dad texted me the other day. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if United win it, because all the focus is on Arsenal and City. Man United just going about their business. Yeah. I don't know. He said that before the Arsenal-Man City game. And I was like, I don't know, man. But you can win it. You are in a title race. You're 5 points behind. All it takes is for us to drop points a couple of times, couple of draws. You know, we've got a hard fixture list in May as well. Like, we got Newcastle, I say Chelsea, they're shit, but we've got Man City and we've got Newcastle and Chelsea all in a row. We've still got to go to Anfield away. We don't normally get any points there. Yeah, Etihad away, we don't get any points ever. So, Man United are still in it, mate. You are still in it, yeah? And you can pull yourself out of it as much as you want. You are in the title race. Yeah, and I know why you're doing it, because you don't want everyone to get hyped and gassed and then it falls down again. I get that. But at the same time, Terry, you are in the title race.
That isn't why
An
I'm doing
outside
it.
race.
But I say outside, and I call that being in a title push. I think we're just behind it. And like I said on the show last night, it's not about being scared of getting the prediction wrong, because I've already changed my Man United prediction this year from maybe we'll get top 6 to we have to finish in the top 4. In fact, not even top 4. If we come below third now, I'll be very disappointed, because we're better than everybody below us, in my opinion. So my standards have already changed. However, if, for instance, you guys drop a few more points, and so my issue with being a title race is this: you win your game in hand, you're 8 points ahead of us. That means we've got to win 3 more games than you in the remaining. By the time you play that game in hand, we've got to win 3 more games with you in the last 12, which means you basically got to lose 3 of your last 12 games. And I just don't think you're inconsistent enough to do that without us losing games as well. So that means that you've got to lose 3. We're going to lose.
We've just lost 2 in our last 4.
Yeah, but I think that was a wobble as opposed to you falling off. So again, if City and Arsenal's inconsistencies that they've shown in the last few weeks remains for a few more, and we win all our games, then my mind will change again, and I'll say 100% we've now entered it. Like, I'm not gonna shy away. I'm not gonna leave it until the last game where we're a point clear, and then go, oh, by the way, we're in a title race. I will man up.
I think that's like what a lot of your fans are trying to do, though, because like you've got a cup final this weekend, and you don't really want to commit to that because you're going to have another game to catch up, because we're going to go and play the weekend. You're not. So all of a sudden, we've got points on the balls. You've got games in hand.
That's the whole point. But that's the thing. By the time you play your game in hand, you could actually be 11 points clear. And points on the board are worth more than games in hand. That 11 points, that basically means from that stage onwards, like, we have to win. I mean, that means we've got to win 4 more games than you, and you'll have 12 games left, which means you're almost losing half your remaining games. Mathematically,
no, because you'll have games in hand.
Yeah, but we have to win. But we have to win 4 more games than you. And the point is, it's not about is it mathematically possible. It's about, do you see that happening? And we'll see. That's why I've got to see Arsenal a few more times, United a few more times, see where the points is, what the form and trajectory is looking like, and I'll change my mind. I always do it. Like, I change my mind regularly on these things. In terms of,
you're flip flopping, Terry, or is that it's not?
No, because I admit that I was wrong and say apologize for it, but I say I was wrong. This is why I'm wrong, and I'm changing my mind to this. Like, I address it. I don't just go from like. There was a YouTuber once. I saw him with his club. I'm not going to say who he was. I remember.
Go on, name and shame.
No, because I don't do the beef stuff online. In the morning, I saw a video of his that he put out where he was like, "We're going to win today. We're going to kill it. I love this team." They narrowly lost that game, and by that evening, he wanted his whole team and manager out and sacked. That for me is flip flopping, where it goes from one to another. But I did it with Potter at the weekend. I saw that performance, and I said, I think I was wrong. Like, I just saw something different, and I'm like, changed my mind on this now. So everybody flip flops, but there we go. There's a few super chats I want to do here. I want to get through these ones though. This one here says, again, you guys are the ones who are making it about activists versus Qatari instead of government-funded businesses versus private investors. You are hidden. No, we're not. My bro, you missed the point. I'm not going to go over it all again. I've got no issue with people having problems with it. My problems are people that say they hate it, but then they financially support it, or they indulge in it, or they use it, or they go on holiday there. It doesn't make sense.
We've seen this all through the World Cup. Just go back and look at all the virtue signalers that were crying about the World Cup and then went to Qatar anyway.
Well, Germany were the worst ones. Hands over the mouth.
Yeah.
But then doing an energy deal with the same country. That's what I mean by...
They're sponsored by Qatar Airlines.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich.
Bruno called me out today saying, how do you feel about accepting money from the Middle East? I just said, how's the Emirates? So I said to him. And he said, an airline isn't the same thing. I was like, just take 5 minutes to research who owns it and who bankrolled it. Just stop. Anyway, it was an Arsenal fan, Lee, who compared him to... But yeah, did you see Babs compare Rashford to Bowen? He said Rashford's having a Yard Bowen season.
Well, listen, I prefer not to speak, mate, because otherwise it'll cause another drama. And I've already caused a lot of dramas. But yeah, carry on.
This here says, yourself, Terry, don't agree with the Glazers ownership, but you haven't walked away from watching matches. You even earn a living off Man United. Why is it different to those
Oof.
disagree with Qatar. It's a great.
Did Man United pay you, Terry? Is that who pays you into the bank every
That's
month?
who pays me. Yeah, Man United.
Okay, yeah.
Man United don't pay me, but I don't have a moralistic human issue with the Glazers. I have a problem with how they run the business. So let's just say I took issue with just research. I don't want to get into this because it gets too political. But the Glazers give to a certain nation financially. If I was to say that giving to that nation financially was a reprehensible crime against human rights, but then still went to the stadium and supported the Glazers and gave them my money, there'd be a problem. I just bemoan their business activities. So what I do is I pull my money away from giving them money financially. It isn't the same thing at all. It isn't the same thing at all. I'm not attacking things that the Glazers have done against human rights and how I can't stomach them. They make me feel sick as a human being. I've just condemned how they run Man United as a football club. Great challenge, though. I appreciate it. But again, for me, I'm not talking about the morals and human rights record of the Glazers. I'm just talking about the fact they take money out my football club. For me, there's a fundamental difference. This super chat says, if Real Madrid or Barca come in for him, will Rashford go?
No,
They've tried to. Barca have come in 3 times and he said no. And that was when Messi was there.
Yeah, I don't
United fans don't want that title pressure. Some don't.
Facts.
Some don't. I think some just don't believe in it. But that's just me. Half of Haaland's league goals this season. Okay, Rashford has, yeah. Rashford has never scored 20 league goals in his season ever. Vardy has done it 3 or 4 times in the Prem. Biased bum, hold that.
Well,
yeah.
No disrespect. If you go and have a look at the stats for Jamie Vardy, because we were comparing stats a minute ago. You read out Rashford's stats. Yeah, I said he's a more polished Vardy. Yeah, not only that, he's doing it in 4 competitions, not 1.
Mm.
So what you want about biased bum, hold that. How about you hold that? Thanks for the super chat.
Well, as Cedric here says here, the Glazers took dividends to fund Donald Trump's campaigns. But that's exactly what I'm alluding to. But I didn't call it out because I don't call anything like this out because I don't get involved because I'm not prepared to do anything tangible about it. So I just keep my powder dry and my mouth shut. And again, I'm not saying you can't condemn it. I am saying don't condemn it, but then join in with it. It's very, very weird. If Potter went to Arsenal, would think Lee Gunner is the manager.
I had a shave yesterday. I don't want to be associated with Graham Potter ever again, please. I've had people in this chat sitting there going, you wanted Potter as manager. Yeah, great after the event, isn't it, people? Well done.
Yeah.
You probably did as well.
AFTV was a disgrace at Villa Park. Were they?
What did they do? What happened?
I didn't see him do anything wrong.
What happened? Tell us more.
I have no idea what they're even referring. Some people's hate towards AFTV is mad.
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
I fully get it, Terry.
No. What I mean, no. What I mean is because we and you do the same thing as they do. We go on people that are angry that other people go on cameras and give opinions. That kind of hate. Like, if you've got some personal issues there, and I get it. But saying why do people want to put their face on camera and give a football opinion? Like, we can't condemn that. We literally do it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but when they're lying about their opinions just to suit what the narrative is online, that's why I have an issue with it.
That's an individual that I would criticize rather than an organization. But I wanted to ask you about Arsenal because they shut you haters up, didn't they, on Saturday with that great comeback and win?
Not really. They've done what was required to win a football match, Terry, which is all we ask.
Exactly. You must have been happy with it, though.
Mate, well, according to the online fan base out there, I don't celebrate goals enough. You could see the pain in his eyes when that 3rd goal went in. Mate, I'm surprised these people are on the internet and not actually studying like psychology or something. Like, it's insane. Like, surely these psychologists that have infested the fan base, like, have got better things to be doing on a Tuesday than sitting cussing me. Like, surely they've got like lessons one-on-one as a psychiatrist and that. I don't know. But yeah, it was mad. And I love the way that Martinelli celebrated his goal and it's rattled everyone. Yeah, love that. Yeah. The one thing I will say, we were shocking. Yeah. And barring that long range shot from Jorginho, you can sit there and cover your face all you like. You probably didn't even watch the game. Yeah.
I watch every game.
You're telling me we were good? You're telling me we were really fantastic to watch and it was a great performance and like whatever. No, it weren't, Terry. Let's not chat rubbish here. For 70 minutes of that football match, we were shocking. Absolutely shocking. When we went to 3 at the back and put Zinchenko in midfield, yeah, then we started controlling the game a lot more. Yeah, Aaron Ramsdale pulled off an unbelievable save to keep us in the game. 5, 6 minutes, 10 minutes later, whatever it was, Jorginho has a shot, which was off target, by the way, because I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans go, see, Jorginho, your apologies better be as loud as your disrespect. Shut up. He dropped a 5 out of 10.
No, he was.
He dropped a 5 out of 10.
He balled out. He balled out. He broke.
Okay, Terry, you get all the stats up.
Let me
without
respond.
the ball.
Hang on, but we're not doing stats because you once said on this show that stats
No,
don't
I've
mean
got eyes, but the stats back my eye test.
Oh, on this occasion they do. So the first thing you said I agree with. You were not sensational for the whole game. However, at the same time, you know as well as I do, in the circumstances of that game, after 3 games without a win, winning the match was the most important thing to do. And Arsenal delivered. I think Jorginho had a brilliant game in the middle. He was breaking lines throughout the course of the game. It was other people, the Nketiahs of this world and Odegaards, that were missing chances and opportunities. It wasn't him, in my opinion. I think you did brilliant. I don't think you performed brilliantly for 90 minutes, but I think you did fantastically to win the game the way you did, to come from behind. And I think the confidence that's going to give you is going to send you back on now for another run. So
I totally agree.
If I was an Arsenal fan, that result, yes, you'd have loved to have dominated for 80, 90 minutes, won 3-0 easily. But I believe you almost needed a performance like that, something to come from behind to show that you're not down and out and beaten. The way you did it is probably more worthwhile than that game against Villa being a landslide whitewash in your direction. I think you needed that to enable you to perform moving forward. I think when you play Leicester next, I think you're going to absolutely destroy them, but that will be born out of the confidence. And what not helped you, but what will add to that confidence is that you winning the way you did, in my opinion, is what shook City for their game. And then they went out
that as well, but people don't hear me say that because that don't suit their narrative, does it? League Gunners.
No, I think you guys scare Man City. Now you do. You put the willies up them, and listen, when they beat you on the Wednesday, they deserve to win. But people have got to remember 2 of their goals came from almost unforced errors. They were, yes, your players were under pressure, but they weren't under unsurmountable pressure. Tomiyasu and Gabriel both just made ridiculously bad mistakes that led to 2 of their goals. Outside of that, I don't know if they would have beaten you.
Can I just stop you right there on the mistakes part? Can I just stop you on the mistakes part? How many goals are scored in football around the world that are not coming off of the back of a mistake? How many? Because you could take a 30-yard, you could take a 30-yard slappage, top bins, postage stamp, but you could then argue, well, that was an individual error because the centre back should have come out and closed it down a bit more.
Yeah, you can do that.
And I've seen this stupid narrative all week.
No, I understand. I'm sorry, Lee, and I understand that. I understand that. But these were 2 really poorly positioned passes that led to, especially KDB's from Tomiyasu's. That was a full-blown error that led to the goal. Now, it was under pressure because he was being put under, but you'll see this weekend, every fullback in the league will play that pass back to their goalkeeper 3 or 4 times in a match, and you may not see a single mistake. Every now and then, it just goes a little bit wrong. I don't think City in that game against you were light years ahead of you. Fantastic. And I looked at it at the end of the game and thought, Arsenal have made a mistake here, not just through losing, but they've almost lost a psychological edge against City. But then against Villa, the way you came back and won, the willies you put up them going into their game, and the fact they dropped points from a winning position against Forest, you've regained that psychological edge. And that's what the back half of the season is. Psychological.
No, I agree. I totally agree. But at the same time, I disagree about the Man City game. We had 1 shot on target. It was a penalty.
Yeah, you missed opportunities in it. But the point I'm making is that
so did Villa.
Sorry, say that again?
You said we missed opportunities and they weren't light years better than us. Well, so did Villa. We weren't light years better than Villa.
I'm talking about 2 separate games.
Yeah, but then my points are exactly the same for both. We weren't miles worse than Man City, individual errors. Yeah? Well, that goes again in the Aston Villa game, doesn't it? From the City game to the Villa game, individual errors. Yeah, Aston Villa were not miles worse than Arsenal on the day, but individual errers cost them.
No, I understand that.
The goalkeeper going up for a corner when the manager told him not to. Yeah,
right,
that's now an individual error, isn't it?
Hang on, I get that, but what's that got to do with my point?
Because the point is, you said Man City weren't a million miles better than us. Well, we weren't a million miles better than Aston Villa.
Yeah, but you're not
Aston Villa lost the game.
Hang on, Lee. But you're not in a title race with Aston Villa, going head to head to who goes top at the league. And
which makes the Man City result worse, then, doesn't it? Which is why people were having meltdowns, Terry.
Lee, yes, you're agreeing with me, but you're trying to disagree in the agreement. You losing to them the way you did, if they would have come to the Emirates and battered you off the park in every element, ripped you limb from limb, then you'd go, wow, we were really outclassed. But because you lost through making some mistakes, it would have hurt a lot more. And you gave away your psychological edge. What you then deserve praise for is regaining it in the next game. That's all I've said.
Yeah, and I agreed with everything you said at the beginning. Then you're saying, yeah, but individual errors. Terry, individual errors are the reason most goals are scored, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've got two teams that are fairly even and you lose on an individual error, that's not a battering. And what I'm saying about regaining your psychological edge is that you weren't completely outclassed, and that can help you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agreed with that 5 minutes ago. You're sitting there saying that, oh, yeah, all these people that are having, you were basically saying all these people that were having a meltdown against Man City, yeah, shouldn't have been doing it because it was so close, the game, and it was just individual mistakes that cost Arsenal, and they won well, and now that's put the psychological dent in Man City. Yes, that is true to a certain degree.
That's not what I said.
Tell me what you said then, because that's what you said 5 minutes ago.
Well, it's not. I didn't say anything. You're saying that's what I meant. That isn't what I meant by it. What I meant about the City game is that I felt it was a fairly close game outside of those errors. I don't think City were light years better than you. That's all I said. There was no further point.
Same against Villa then, wasn't it? Because Villa weren't light years worse than us. We weren't light years better than them.
I didn't say you agree. But I don't get. Listen, Lee. Sorry, I need to calm this down a minute. I don't understand your point. I didn't say you were light years better than Villa. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, it was great. My point was, it was great that you've reaffirmed your position on top, and your, in my opinion, mental superiority over them, because you lost it in the game against City in such a narrow way. It's important to regain it quickly, and you did. I'm not stating that you should be overly praised for your performance against Villa, because it was quite a close game. 4-2 as a scoreline actually flattered Arsenal a little bit, because if you look back through the history books, you'll go, oh, you battered them. You didn't. But it was an important victory. That's all I stated. That was it.
Yeah, and I agreed with you at the beginning. But the way you were making that sound was, oh my God, it was such a close game that, man. No, it weren't. That was not a close game. That was not a close game, that Arsenal Man City game. Go and have a look. Go and have a look at that game again. Watch the whole 90 minutes, and you tell me that game was close.
I don't think. Listen. I think City. I don't think it was that.
Free-flowing Man City is what happened. They deliberately tried to slow the game down in the first 20 minutes of the game. Their goalkeeper got booked for time wasting.
What's your point to this? I don't understand the point of this conversation.
Because you sat there and said, yeah, but individual errors. Yeah, well, individual errors, Terry, is exactly why most games are won and lost.
Yeah, again, individual errors that weren't really forced. And for me, if you've got a team that's passing it around you and a defender is dragged out of his position because of the great play, I don't see that as an individual error. That is a forced error through great play. The way you gave balls away in that game on the edge of your own box were like catastrophic, uncharacteristic, especially for Tomiyasu, mistakes that your team has barely made for a long time. Every game,
we have made mistakes, not so big as that one, but we have made mistakes in every single game. Go back to the Aston Villa game at the weekend. Zinchenko, who can't listen, something needs to change there, and people start crying. I couldn't care less. Yeah, the fact that guy comes inverted every single time instead of overlapping isolates our left back. Yeah, and why is it every team since we played Man United have been going down that side? Why? Because he's playing everywhere but left back. Let me finish.
Sorry, go on.
Right, people have been calling out Martinelli, and rightly so, because his performance has been poor. But you have to take into account that he ain't got anyone helping him on that left side. He's literally isolated. He then gets dropped, and everyone's going, yeah, Trossard's playing. What did Trossard do against Villa? Nothing. Why? Because the system we play inverts the left back.
I get all of it. I get all of this.
At the same time,
none of that I disagree with.
No, I know. We're not disagreeing. I'm just saying. At the same time, if you go and have a look at their first goal, Ollie Watkins' goal, yeah, would you say that was an unforced error from Zinchenko? Because he got the ball nicked off of him. The ball goes straight over the top. Ollie Watkins, what was he doing? Because he shouldn't be beating Saliba like that, and he shouldn't be beating our goalkeeper at near post like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's poor defending. It depends on what way around you want to put it. In terms of this, again, some people see that as I think Saliba is poor defending. He didn't get close enough.
No, but go back to the Zinchenko.
Yeah, I'm going to answer if you let me finish. Zinchenko, for me, was a mistake. I would say as an error. I feel like he didn't see what was around him. His touch was a bit too heavy and he lost the ball. On the City game, just quickly, like this is why I don't think it was a game that was too different. You had 60% of the ball that game. You had 10 shots to their 9. Now I get you'll say, but we only had 1 on target. That's the lack of that's poor finishing. But you had the chances in that game. That's why for me, that's why when I looked at that game being 3-1 to City, the way you lost it, it should have been even more disappointing in the sense of it wasn't like you were outclassed and you could say, do you know what? They're just a better team than us.
No, but we was outclassed.
I feel on the day, no, I don't think you did. I think on the day, mentally, you just weren't up for the fight. Is the point I was trying to allude to?
Okay, so even that makes it even worse. Then we weren't mentally up for a fight with the champions when we're trying to go clear of them. You just said we weren't mentally up for the fight. You just said that, not me. I said it makes it worse.
I know, but maybe it does make it worse. I'm just simply stating. Sometimes you disagree with me on things that we agree on. I said
you just said it makes it. They weren't mentally up for the fight. Yes. Your words, not mine.
And then you said and then you said yes. It's even worse. Then I said yes. That it should be more disappointing when you're fairly even with a team like City at home, and it's little mistakes that cost you, and a lack of clinical edge at the other end. That's more frustrating than if City turned up and were just outright better than you, because then it's not there's no excuse. It's just they're better than us. That's why the return against Villa was so important. Is what I was saying. Moving on from that, someone here says, Terry, please pull up the XG versus Villa and City. I don't have XG available here, but yeah, it was fairly similar, I think. Second half, Arsenal were brilliant. First half was shambolic. Odegaard's most chances created in a game for Arsenal since Ozil in 2016-17.
Yay, let's give him a title for that trophy. Woohoo. Most chances created. Chances created is one of the worst stats ever.
Let me get through these. Sorry, bro. Arsenal, a minute ago, you said, get the stats up for how bad Jorginho
is. No.
You don't like stats
if you're going to quote me properly, because if you're going to quote me properly. What I said was, get Jorginho's stats up. They back the eye test, mate. That's what I said.
The stats for your second half against Villa were backed up by the eye test because you were creating opportunities and chances.
I said from 70 minutes on, and when we put Zinchenko in midfield and went to a back three, we dominated the game. Did I not say that?
Yeah, but you can't discount. But you can't discount stats 1 minute and then agree with them the next. They're either an important part.
No, Terry. I discount stats. Yeah, I use my eyes, but you want to use stats all the time to prove your arguments right.
No.
And then when I prove it's wrong, you go, yeah, but we had 63% possession, what?
You just said the same. You just said the same thing as me. When the stats match your eye test, you use them. So if I believe I saw you create chances, and then I can show you stats.
I don't need to use the stats to prove.
But you did want to. But you did want to with Jorginho. The first thing you said is get the stats up.
Terry. Every time I come on here and we have a debate over a player or an individual or a couple of individuals or a single match, you start tapping away on the computer and bringing up stats, which is why I thought, you know what, before he starts doing that, let me use it. Yeah. And in that particular game against Aston Villa, I didn't see any Jorginho stats until yesterday. And go and have a look at his stats without the ball and then look at his stats with the ball. Without the ball, the guy is an absolute liability. But I already knew that anyway because I watched the game. With the ball, yes, he can pass the ball. Well, I'd expect him to. He's on 100 grand a week. Like, come on. Yeah, his shot, by the way, I'm just going to say this. His shot, by the way, was off target. Off target. If it had gone straight in the top corner, it probably would have been disallowed anyway. Because there was 2 players in the eye line of the goalkeeper. Yeah, we were very, 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 very lucky. You can laugh all you like. We were very, very lucky that we won that football match. And I agree with what you said, because I've said it all week since that game and on the day, the psychological boost that will do for us. Man City players must have been sat in the dressing room, putting on their socks, shin pads and kits, thinking, lovely, they've dropped 2 points. Yeah, and then as soon as Pep's finished his team talk, they won 4-2. Head gone, which is probably why Haaland's ball entered Spanish airspace last night and landed at Malaga Airport. Do you know what I'm saying? How are you missing that? How is Foden falling over 5 yards out? All the people in the chat that want to cry all you like, mate. I genuinely don't care. Oh, you're a clown. Well, I've been called worse. Thanks.
I get that. I want to move on. I've been trying to move on for this for a few minutes because I wanted to ask you something. What did you make of the way, and I used 2 people as an example because it's important to, but there was a lot of it online as well. Like the way like the likes of Egal came for the likes of Brandon, who Brandon used the word pussies. He maybe could have said cowards or they were weak.
No, he used the right word.
Okay, he called them pussies. Yep. And then you had the likes of Egal basically shutting him down, getting angry with him. And I know you offered Egal a debate on this subject, and Egal did say no to it. Like, do you think that's right, the way like Brandon was treated by Arsenal fans after that? Like, what was your take on that?
I expect nothing less. They're the biggest crybabies on the planet. That comment about Mudryk, by the way, I said I never wanted him and I couldn't care less he went to Chelsea. So I don't know where you got that from, mate. Yeah, I said he was crap. I said I didn't want him. So I don't know where you've made that story up. But this is what people do. It's league. I know it doesn't matter what he says. There was a comment in here the other day, Terry, last Tuesday. Doesn't matter what happens and what this guy says, I side with Terry. That's what we're dealing with on Arsenal fans, mate. Because there is millions like this. Yeah, that same person, Egal, sat on Never a Foul channel the day after that happened with Brandon, sat there and said, my aim at the start of the season was Europa League and top 4. I put a comment into that and said, so if we only get top 4, then would you want either the manager, Edu, or any of the players sacked? They asked him the question and he said no. That, my friend, is exactly what we are dealing with Arsenal fans, which is why I call them out, which is why my club is in the gutter. Yeah. And yes, we're top and great, fantastic. I hope we win the league. I will rub it in everyone's faces that we've won the league. You can't celebrate. Shut up. I was born the last time we won a league. Yeah, and I've been fighting for 10 years for them to do what's required. So if they actually do what's required, well done. Now go and retain it. Well done. Yeah, because he sat there, right, and shouted that over Brandon, yeah, and caused a pile-on, screaming and shouting, but then didn't want to debate with me because I'd scream and shout over him. Get in the bin, mate. Yeah, and the fact of reality is, Terry, if you're going to set a target at the start of the season, and you know this because you do a lot of shows regarding Arsenal, yeah, where you get different fans on, right? At the start of the season and for most of the season, most of the Arsenal fans that you see in your comments and online and on this show or your shows will sit there and say at the start of the season, top 4 and Europa League. That's the must. Yeah, if I'm lying here, couldn't cut me off and tell me. Top 4 in Europa League. That's what they were all shouting. The reason they were all shouting that is because 4 of our first team squad said that. Yeah, 4 of our first team squad said that. Our captain, our vice-captain, Ramsdale and Odegaard. On pre-season, you can go and find the videos. They all said it in separate interviews. The aim this season is top 4 in Europa League. Our players are saying that, right? So now, fast forward, we're top of the table. We lose to City. They go top. Everyone's losing their crap. Cool, rightly so. They were pussies. Yeah, I don't care. They were pussies. Granit Xhaka's been here for 7 years, mate. Yeah, he was most of that squad bottled top 4 last season, by the way. Yeah, so they have a history of bottling, don't they? Right. Not only that, now you ask these Arsenal fans, well, if we only get top 4 and not Europa League, because now they're crying about a thin squad. Well, when you're giving 8 out of 10 for transfer windows, then did you not see this thin squad? Oh no, of course you didn't, because that didn't fit the narrative at the time, did it? Yeah, because it's what a sign-in. Oh, yes, we signed this player. Great. Yeah, they're all convinced themselves that Jorginho is a great player because he had 1 shot off target the other day. Well done. Yeah, like it's mad. Now you ask them, well, if we only get top 4, then would you want Arteta sacked? If we don't win the league, we finish 2nd or 3rd, and we don't win the Europa League, on your logic and your target at the start of the season where you all said top 4 in Europa, would you sack anyone? He sat on Never a Foul and said no. Why? So why set a target if you're happy regardless? And this is the problem, Terry. Just before that on that program, Northside was saying to him, yeah, but this has been going on for 20 years. He goes, I don't care about 20 years. What's that got to do with anything? I'll tell you exactly what it's got to do with everything. Because over 20 years, nearly the whole time we've not won a title, more and more of these people have come along and latched onto Arsenal Football Club. And more of them have lowered the standards by giving a target. They're not holding anyone accountable if they don't hit it. So the club sit there and go, boy, that's easy. Jorginho can take 1 shot. Cheers, job done. Oh, it don't matter because they all said top 4 in Europa, but we only got top 4. They're all happy anyway back in Champions League. Job done. Where's the accountability, mate? Yeah, like I said, I hope we win it because I'll tell you what, you see all these people putting clown emojis in, bro? My life is amazing. Yeah, you're going to see that all summer. Yeah, when you're going out to work and I'm sat on a beach every day. Yeah, with Cristal champagne if we win the league every single day. Because I will be sitting there with my Javianas on, hashtagging flip-flop on all my posts, because I have fought tooth and nail up and down the Hornsey Road, getting abused left, right, and centre, trying to get Wenger out for taking us back. And Arteta now is going to take us back to the level, if he don't win it, that was deemed not good enough when we lost to Leicester that season. But you lot are all going to jump for joy because you've got no standards. Yeah, and this is why I get the ump with people, Terry, because the standards should be win it every year, or at least compete every year. And then when people come along and set targets and then don't hold anyone accountable if they fail, the standards are lower and lower.
Look,
do Real Madrid do this?
So look, I look at it, I want to say on this. I understand the point you're making there that if you say Egal is an interesting one. He's not here to defend himself, so I'm gonna
Shock.
play. I'm gonna do a bit of that for him. Obviously, the situation with Brandon, I think. Look, a lot. I'm a bit confused about why it's still a thing online because Egal phoned him straight afterwards and apologized for speaking to him like that. So I think people online that are saying, "Yeah, Egal, you were right for doing it." Egal doesn't think he was right for doing it because Egal phoned him and apologized, and it was good of it. I think it was good of Egal to do that. It was a heat of the moment thing. Two guys had an argument and they sorted it straight after. I understand people taking issue with what Brandon said in terms of the language that he used, but equally, you can't be upset by the word pussies and then applaud the way Egal speaks to him with the language he used because that again makes you a bit of a hypocrite. For me, it was more of I didn't see it as a overly negative thing in either direction. I just thought it was quite funny seeing two men have an argument. It was great. On the changing of standards, I think we all change standards throughout the season. Egal has been very outspoken, and he said this a few weeks ago on the Terrace. We have to win the league from this point. So for me, when you make that statement, we have to win the league. For me, I don't think it means if they don't, he has to want the manager sacked. I think it all depends on why you don't win it, how far you fall off. So let's just say you don't win it by 1 point. I don't believe, because you've already said if the manager gets you into a title race, you'd back him. So if you don't win the league because of 1 point, but you, by your own definition, you can't turn your back on the manager. However,
I never said win the Europa League either.
However, I get that. However, if you finish third and you end up 15 points at the top, I can understand some people saying, I don't think this manager has the ability to see something through to the end. I feel like in the end, we're always going to crumble. That, again, I think would be a logical thing to say, because 2 seasons running, you've seen that as an example. There's enough evidence there to back that. And I think that's why it's a little bit harsh. And I'm just trying to do a bit of a job of defending Egal slightly and playing devil's advocate around just because you don't win the league and you're a fan that has said we should win the league from this point doesn't necessarily equal the manager should be sacked. I think you've got to contextualize it and what does it actually look like in reality. But if you guys finish this season with no trophy and you finish miles behind whoever wins the league, or you finish in third place behind Man United as well, then equally then I do understand there being some heavy criticism of how can we have a greater start to a league season ever?
If Man United finish above us, he's got to be sacked regardless.
But what if we win the league and we're only above you by a point? You've said we're as good as you. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
No, I said you are as good as us. But the point is, Terry, the point is, Arsenal, you just closed yourself. At the greatest start to a season, Man United have fought in 4 fronts. They ain't been sitting there crying about Finn's squad. They ain't been sitting there crying about referees. They haven't been sat there crying about VAR. They haven't been sitting there. Arsenal haven't been sat there getting pammed 4-0 like you were at the start of the season. Yeah, to fight in 4 fronts, you might already have a trophy by then because you've got a cup weekend coming up. Yeah, and if you end up winning the league or finishing above Arsenal, sack him. Yeah, I don't even care. Sack him. Just sack him. Yeah, but this is where I'm not talking about just league position, Terry. Yeah, these people, him included, Egal, said Europa League is a must and top 4. So it doesn't matter. We're going to get top 4 regardless now. Regardless. So we've got so that's 1 box ticked. Yeah, so that's 1 box ticked. So now they better go and win the Europa League. Otherwise, on that guy's standard, the same as hundreds of thousands online, the manager's failed. So, okay, would you want him sacked then? Would you want Edu sacked when it? No. So on that basis, then stop setting stupid targets because you ain't going to hold them accountable if they miss them anyway. And that is where this club has been in the gutter for so long. Because, but look at what Wenger done for the club. Mate, we ain't got any more time, yeah? But I can sit here and do a whole show on what Wenger's done for this football club, mate. Yeah, because the whole reason we have got 20-year-old people, 20, 23, 24-year-olds that have got standards like that is because of that guy in the first place. Yeah? Oh, well, we cannot compete financially. Well, why were you nicking 11 million a year then, mate? The highest paid manager in the world. Why were you sending all of our players every year, convincing everyone it was because the stadium was being paid off? But it wasn't even halfway paid off in 2018 when the Conkeys actually paid it off and refinanced it to themselves. Even Gary Neville fell for that one. Oh, yeah, but they had to sell all these players because they were paying the stadium off. Bollocks. The stadium cost 20 million a year for 30 years. Well, actually, I lie. It was on 25 years. It was like a mortgage. 20 million a year for 25 years. So 25 million, well, we qualified for Champions League pretty much every year, didn't we? So that covered the payment for the stadium. So to sit there and try and chat rubbish, and that is, I could go on for hours about that geezer, mate.
No, I do get that. I just want to put these super chats up.
But these people idolise him, and they found like daddy figure and all of that. And you can't have a bad word said against Wenger. Yeah, look what he done for the club. Well, were you old enough to even witness it? No, you weren't. So shut up. Yeah, go and learn the history of the football club. Come back, and we might have a conversation.
A dot here says United, Liverpool, Chelsea, City all have better squads than Arsenal. We've got to admit, if Arteta wins the league, he's worked a miracle and deserves credit. Is what a dot says here. I think he's a miracle. Maybe it's a debate worth having. Arsenal are not in the gutter, have been, but not anymore. And abusing players with such a word is out of order. We should
I bet they won't sleep at night, mate. I bet they're absolutely devastated. Brandon called him a pussy. Do you reckon they've slept since? Yeah, and what do you mean it's not in the gutter? How old are you, mate? Like, real talk. What do you mean it's not in the gutter? It's on the longest title drought in its history, and it's not in the gutter.
I get that. This here says you have no right to celebrate if we win.
Yeah, were you going to come and stop me then? Like, is anyone actually going to stop me celebrating? No, they're not, because you know what? I actually deserve it more than all of these people, Terry, because these people, even if we don't win it, like real talk, even if we do not win the league this season, this lot don't care. Oh, it don't matter. We're back in the Champions League. Goosebumps at the Emirates, at the carpet. Absolute divs, the lot of them. Absolute wrong-uns. They deserve nothing. They actually deserve us to capitulate and finish 10th. Yeah, but then even then, they'd still keep everyone in a job for another 15 years. And even if we do win it, because it's started me now, even if you do win it, we do win it, yeah? Let's say we do win the league this season, yeah? Do you know what? That's good enough for them. You don't have to retain it. You don't have to go for it again next season. No, it don't matter, mate. I've seen them win a league now, because none of these divs have ever seen Arsenal win a league title.
Oh,
like, come on.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm dying. Lee just wishes we were managed by Riok in the 90s, is what Olu says here. I don't want us to change angers like most do. Arteta, I think you mean managers, like most do. Arteta has changed the club. Love everything positive that is happening at our club. Wouldn't sack Arteta, much rather sack Lee from this show. The financial record of Arsenal proves that we needed to sell players after the stadium. Learn your history before chatting rubbish, Lee.
Garbage. Absolute garbage, yeah? Absolute garbage. £20 million a season that stadium cost for 25 years, mate. Go and look it up. Yeah, we did not have to sell anyone. Our income streams were ridiculous. Yeah, and Arsene Wenger was on the highest money out of any manager in world football. What are you chatting, mate? There's nothing you can tell me I don't even know about Arsenal, mate, yeah? Like, real talk. I know this club inside out. I know the Emirates Stadium inside out. I know everything about this football club, mate. You are chatting absolute garbage. £20 million a season, that stadium cost. We didn't have to sell Van Persie, Adebayor, and all these other players. And in fact, them two that I've just mentioned there have both sat in different newsrooms and articles, yeah, and on BT Sports saying, well, I wanted to stay. They never gave me a contract. Adebayor said he came back to training and was told he was going to Man City. He said, Gaffer, I want to stay. Just scored 36 goals. Come back for pre-season, you're sold. Yeah, I swear Wenger was on a kickback, man. Has to be. It's the only reason.
Dan T here says, the lovely standards. I want the best for the club, and we've been way below for far too long. This is my favorite comment of the day from Wazza, who says, feels like I'm watching two people argue over the shape of the earth. One saying it's flat whilst agreeing that it is also round, and the other one saying it's round but could also be flat. I'm confused. I mean, I was just confused. I just got confused. It was a throwaway comment to me, and I didn't think it was much, and it kept coming back, and I was confused about what Lee's point was, but it's all good. It happens sometimes. Arsenal fans aim too low nowadays. Spot on, Lee. Do you not think,
mate,
Lee,
they're more interested in taking the piss out of other fans online, mate?
I was about to say to you, do you not think that some Arsenal fans, though, for the same reason that you said United fans don't want to say that they're in a title race, some Arsenal fans want to play it down because they want to relieve that pressure?
There is no pressure. They couldn't care less, Terry. We finished 8th twice and they were making excuses. We haven't been in the Champions League since 2016. This lot are going to have, oh my days. Mate, if we get Champions League football and don't win anything this season, but we qualify for Champions League, the bunting's out, the street parties are out, the pants around their ankle. I mean, tissue and Vaseline sales in Asda are going to be gone. Like, it's going to be insane, Terry. Honestly, it's going to be insane. You're never going to see anything like it, mate. Yeah. And then I want to ask one question very quickly. If Arsenal got into the Champions League last season, by finishing 4th and not 5th, right? How much more money do you think we would have spent in the summer?
Maybe 50, 60 million more.
Okay, now on that 50, 60 million more, added to the squad we have now, do you think that's good enough to be able to compete in the Champions League and in the league?
I mean, depends who you bought, but let's just say you added 2 more quality players to your team.
We ain't getting 2 for 25 million each. Where are you finding them? You just said 50 mil.
Well, you bought Trossard and Jorginho in for less than that, and they're good enough.
Okay, so let's say another Trossard type player, yeah, or just 2 players, yeah, 2 players, 50 mil. Mate, our fans are sitting there saying that's a thin squad, we can't compete in the FA Cup, can't compete. The next thing will be, well, throw away the Europa League because we're in a title race. Yeah, throw it away because that comes back next month. And as soon as we get the draw, it'll be, oh, it's rigged because we'll probably end up with you. Yeah, it's rigged. I'll throw it in the bin. Yeah, let's go for the league. Yeah. So you're telling me you think Arsenal would have spent an extra 50 million? Right. Cool.
Maybe.
Cool. Mate, we can't compete for an FA Cup when we're only playing 1 game a week, apparently. But now we're going to go and compete on an extra 50 million in a competition against some of the best teams in Europe. Can you imagine us playing PSG or Bayern Munich or Real Madrid right now with an extra 2 players? Yeah, we've been very good this season in the league, but now we're using a bench because Thomas Partey's out and Jesus is out.
I get where you're coming from in terms of, I do think your squad needs bolstering. There's no doubt about that. This year from Guna Dan says, Lee watched Vieira, Henry, Fabregas go on the promise that we compete. Just remember that, people. I don't agree with Lee 100%, but put respect on him.
They don't remember, mate, because they ain't old enough. Real talk.
Nachi here says, I like Lee's standards. Arsenal is a big club. Stop getting rattled by Arsenal fans, is what's said there. Lee, I agree. Standards should be high. However, realism is important. In an ideal world, we should compete every year. But we need to get that to that point first, which we are now doing with Arteta. Yeah, listen, I agree.
We've only waited 19 years, mate.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're now there again, and I think the high standards have got to be there. At the same time, not winning the league every year shouldn't just equal sack the manager. Contextualization is needed to it, and I think that is going to be key. You know, if you're a hair's breadth away from winning it, a new guy could come in and take you backwards. You've got to give the guy another chance, especially if you win another trophy along with it this year. If you win the Europa League as well and come second.
If we win nothing and Man United finish above us, sack him. If we finish within 6 points of Man City, if we don't win it, cool. If we finish anything over 6 points, sack him. We were 8 points clear, Terry. That's a 15-point swing.
I hear you there. Lee, I know you got a
it's a thin squad. It's a fit. Mate, I can't wait for the excuses again next season. Because if we don't win the league this season, yeah, this lot, trust me, all these clown emojis, they'll all be coming back next season at this time of the year going, you were right, mate.
We're rats.
They better win it this season. That's all I'm saying, mate. They better win it this season because I don't see us doing it if we don't. Listen,
everyone that has tuned in, I want to say a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Please hit the like button before you leave and subscribe to the Football Terrace. Lee, always a pleasure, mate. And I'm sure we'll speak next Tuesday. Hopefully Man United are Carabao Cup champions by then.
Yeah, they might be. Yeah, listen, all the crybabies with clown emojis and all of that in the chat. I'm about to go live with Rance. You probably don't like him as well because he's probably too real for you little snowflake beings. So come and join me and him, and we can both make you cry together.
Lovely. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. God bless.